S? Is it the is it the 3GS or the 3 or is it the 3G? Is it, you know, there were 3 separate iPhones that had the number 3 in it.
Yeah.
There's the iPhone 3, the iPhone 3G, and the iPhone 3GS.
Yeah.
You know, so it's kind of confusing. So so it could be that that's what we wind up doing. Yeah. But let's see. So
now, will you still, once the FB4 or the FB5, let's call it, is in production, will the FB3 still be a thing, or will it?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
It's great hardware. It's solid. You plug it into a computer and it works. There's no screwing around. We like that.
So do we.
Yeah. So now, one great thing about this, which seems unique, as far as these controllers, no, aside from the organic LED display, it's auto IP.
Nice.
Right? So one of the things that I really hate about Windows, one of the many things, is in each next version of Windows, they change their mind on how you set the IP address. And so that makes support nightmare. It's like, you know, Windows 8, I don't even know where to go. But, you know, with XP, there was one way, it's so easy to get there. Vista, they made it a little bit harder. Windows 7, they made it even harder. It's like you right click here, you move over here. Like, I don't know.
I still can't figure out how to get something off a public network once you set it there. Windows 7, Windows 8, it's like, oh, you plug in the computer, it's like, what do you want to put this on? Everyone's like, oh, public. No, don't put it on public.
Too late.
Then I was like,
yeah. So it's auto IP. Just plug it into the computer, it goes. And yep. So Aaron Bax made Justin a beautiful carrying case for this plus these things. I say carrying case. It's like a metal box. It's basically a Mach projector, but it's, you know, just big enough for you to fit that stuff in. You know, so it's pretty small, but you know, like I say, this really is supposed to go inside a projector, be in a projector. So the projector, making an intelligent projector. The projector can play laser shows either on power up or be controlled by, you know, one of the cables or something like that. And the ILDA input, what's neat about it is that this is the ILDA input that flows into the FB4, right? ILDA in and through. But once it flows in, now FB4 can sort of like, I was going to say Dave Box, but Dave and Ed's box, can control the orientation and also control the color stuff that happens. We actually digitize the colors, and we have a simple switch to control the orientation. So, for example, you can bring the input into ILDA, and then say, okay, well now I'm rear projection, or now I've turned the projector on its side, and I want to reorient the thing.
Is it full geometric correction or just X1 flip X1?
Well, for the input, it's just flipping and it's just orientation.
Okay.
But we do have color correction in here. So you can bring a standard RGB ILDA in here and then correct for the specific projector through this. But for everything else on here, there is so for example, you got the card, you got shows on the card. There is full geometric correction built into this as well.
But that pipeline doesn't include it coming in from the input.
No, that does not. Yeah, that's a shorter path.
Right. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
But anything that this actually does, you know, either through the cable, obviously, because the software does it.
Right.
But yeah, controlled by OSC, controlled by DMX, everything. All that's, you got the geometric correction built right into it. Yeah. Yeah. So that seems pretty unique too.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, you put a test pattern out or something on it?
Sure.
Just to make sure that
Oh,
Dave should have it plugged in.
perfect.
So a chair?
No. I like to think this way.
Okay.
Much better. What I like in this hardware, fastest. I can agree. It don't take CPU time to communicate. It's fast as hell. We have a new technology in how to speak with the hardware, and this is something I never had anything fast as that before. I speak about like 17 years of experience, and this one something.
Nice.
Five.
He's happy.
network
This is why we can run 40 on a single line.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Network bandwidth is
Yeah, well, that's it.
0. Take a look at that. CPU load. CPU load, nothing. Bandwidth, guys.
Well, everybody's over here though.
Yeah.
CPU
Take a
utilization
look at
is
this.
like nothing.
You see it? You want to see it again? So this is the
100 megabit connection, so it's low one. When I tested with gigabit connection and a router, 4 flashback 4 takes 1% of communication. We can do less, so we know how to save.
this is without compression or anything.
Right now it is uncompressed.
So my eyes can't see this anymore. How many 0.0 something percentages is this?
It should be 2%, 2.5%, one flashback 4 takes 2 megabits.
Okay.
Something like that.
Right.
And CPU load, it's getting older. This is CPU load. Take a look at that.
So it's like
Nothing.
Oh yeah, that's not even.
Nothing. So these 4, I had only 4 in my hands. Up to 10 you will also will be nothing. This bigger amount, of course, say hello to Windows, say thanks Microsoft, so something will appear. With 20, good enough. With 40 we will see. I don't want to be loud, let me finish this part, but we will see. Right now, you know, each hardware has a step, you know.
Yeah.
So far, no problems. Fast enough, Beyond will be able to operate with many networks at once, so you can plug many adapters as you want. I start all adapters, I ping each network, I check what happens, so you may have multiple networks of flashback 4, separate them. Of course, we take not much of the bandwidth, but you need to have linear network. This is main requirement. If you will have network with gaps in communication, of course, this is not so good. Of course, we can buffer in forward. This is possible, but it will be not so real time. You know, everybody loves to have reaction in a couple of milliseconds. So if you want reaction in 2 milliseconds, then you need a network without gaps. So this is, it is not so complicated with cables. So these cables, no problem. With Wi-Fi, some Wi-Fi has so huge gaps, guys. This is really insane. Sometimes
Honestly, Wi-Fi isn't really the solution for lasers anyway. Cat 5 cable is cheap.
well, certain situations, like if you're going from building to building or something like that.
Then you would have to. Then I wouldn't use a Wi-Fi. I'd get a wireless bridge.
Yes, bridge, exactly.
And do
Yes,
that way.
absolutely
Honestly,
right.
Wi-Fi is just,
High
in my opinion,
power.
Wi-Fi is not safe or secure enough for a laser.
Just can't take that.
Just isn't. That's not what it's
Amen.
designed. Yeah.
Yeah.
There you go.
I get so many phone calls.
Well-
Emails. How can I make it wireless? Don't make it wireless.
Don't make it wireless. Or spend $4,000 and buy yourself a nice wireless bridge and do it that way. But nobody wants to do that.
Ubiquity bridges aren't that expensive anymore. They're pretty.
If you're gonna go across a couple of blocks.
No, like 10 miles.
Really? And you're gonna get it for less than $4,000?
Yeah, like $2 grand.
Okay.
80 megabits, 100 megabits.
So with that being said, Alexei, tell them about the network you have in your house.
In my summer house, it will like 15 kilometers between base station and our summer village. And all of this made with Wi-Fi bridge. And after that, real 100 megabits without any questions, I'm sure. So, and no lost ping.
No, I mean your house that you're here in Lake Mary. like 3 routers and wireless and power and all kinds of
oh
other
my
things.
gosh. Yes, I test this with Wi-Fi main router, after that power line to another router, after that to third router, and after that cable. So
And it works.
Wow.
Yeah. And when you talk about power line, it's this like you could plug a wall pack into
Oh
this
yeah,
thing,
yeah.
and a wall
Ethernet
pack
over
into
power.
this
Yeah,
thing.
yeah.
is very-
The one that hams can't stand because the interference that it creates is all over the. Was it 20 meters? Or 10 meters? Yeah. Yeah.
Probably.
It is. Yeah. It's terrible, terrible interference.
Yeah.
And if to be honest, all equipment
Huh?
Yeah.
Right. Nothing real one, so I use complete crap, you know. I just want to see how much we can.
What can this thing
Yeah,
stand?
You know, how far can you degrade the signal before it finally throws up because it can't stand
Yeah.
it? Yeah.
And for a while, we had one that was messing up. And 1 out of the 5 FB3s that was made wouldn't work under that condition. And we're still trying to figure out why that 1 out of 5 wouldn't work. But this is the first rev of the board, and there was a couple of traces that got switched.
Sure.
And they're the traces that go to this connector. And you guys, you may know how sensitive this is. The impedance, especially at 100 megabit or a gigabit, the impedance, so if you take a couple of pieces of bus wire and then cross them over the board and solder them, and then overheat the mag jack on the back, you know, so this is our theory as to why the 1 out of the 5 didn't work. But the other 4, you know, plug it on, and all through this complicated network these guys in South, so I can't even really understand it myself. It will work, no problem. So.
So yeah, I mean, the average person, you'll probably see at best a half a dozen per mortal. You know,
So let's see.
what about
Just
specs
maybe
as far as
display a cue or part of a show or something of that nature?
This one, this is a good test. It's a mix of calculation and emotion. So motion made
Through
by
frame
means of
sequencing?
effect.
Sure,
Yeah.
animated.
So all what is effect and by you can see on eye. how
Yeah.
it moves.
So one of the things that I kept saying to you at these conferences and stuff like that is that you know everything that had been done up till on the network up till now wasn't smooth. The only reason why we get it smooth in the QM2000 is because all we do over the network is send the whole show to the
Right.
QM2000 and
Same
say
play.
play. Exactly. So that's how it's kept smooth on the QM2000. But it's a real challenge to make it smooth over the network for this. And here's why. Because, you know, the beam is always moving. It's always moving in a continuous path, right? And yet, the flow of the communication over the network can be
Drop
can drop. It can be, you know, you get them twice in a row and then with a long distance. And sort of like our FP3 philosophy, there's no real memory in this thing. The FP3 has no memory. It's not a double buffer.
I remember that thread.
You're constantly sending frames to it, and it's constantly being displayed, right? So the FP4 uses exactly the same thing. There's no double buffer. It's not going to. If you miss sending it something, it's not going to double scan because it can't. It doesn't have the capacity to remember anything, right? So because of that, we've invented this new communications style through the network, where this can tolerate breaks and gaps and you know, network screw-ups, and yet this can still maintain that the beam is going to always be flowing from trace to trace and frame to frame, and because of that, it becomes perfectly smooth as our FP3 and as smooth as our QM2000, even though it's got a network connection.
Are you doing that kind of like the ASL, I mean the ATM route, where you're using ultra small packets? Sending lots of them? Huh?
No, it's not UDP. I'm not going to tell you exactly what it is, but it's not UDP.
It's not ATM.
One socket,
Yeah.
TCP/IP, you can see it.
Yeah. So in terms of the network communication, what a router would have to deal with. I mean, there's other kind of protocols that we could have invented that aren't TCP and aren't UDP. We could do this, and some people do this to communicate their network data. But then the standard off-the-shelf stuff, you know, that has to route this stuff, it's like, what the hell are you talking about, man? So everything can use TCP or UDP. But, you know, so that's it. It's just kind of how we handle the network and what we do with it.
So, hypothetically speaking, if you had 20 of these things, you buy a 24-port switch, and I plug one cable from my laptop to the switch, and I plug 20 projectors into the other end of the switch with these FP4s in them, and it just talks.
Yeah, that's right, isn't it? He made a program to.
You know where I'm going with it.
Yeah, I'm already trying to figure out if it'll fit in the.
Yeah, that's right. We can take them. Come on, man.
In our most recent developments and experiments, Alexei has made a program, runs on a separate PC, to pretend that it's 50 FP4s. So we're gonna send from here to, it's really a variable number, but he stopped at 50 because we want to know where the problems are. And at 50, you're going to run into problems there. But
if somebody can afford 50 projectors with FP4s in them, they can afford another network card.
well, or another PC.
Or another PC.
You can do 10 gig from your computer to a 10 gig edge switch, and then you would have enough bandwidth to do millions of them, pretty much.
Well, there's the network bandwidth, which at what Alexei tells me at 40 of these, the network is what, at 80% utilization.
80% of 100 megabit connection, but if you
Oh, okay.
gigabit,
Yeah.
it will be different.
All right.
Right.
That's crazy.
So-
Yeah.
See, that's one element of the
Yeah.
thing, but then the computer's got to calculate all this stuff too.
That's true. So yeah, you'll probably run into you'll bottleneck a CPU long before you'll bottleneck a gigabit Ethernet connection.
Yeah, probably bottled. Yeah. We've done 24 FP3s on, like we're FP3 on Ante's
So,
desktop PC with, I forget how many cores he's got, but you run 24 FP3s with Beyond on a decent desktop class PC. Yeah. So.
How you plugging in 24 USB ports?
Lots of hubs.
Yeah.
Probably.
That's awesome. That is awesome. So, the FP4 SE, or the projector mount version, will be available soon. What's the projected availability of the FP5?
Oh, Q5 of this year. no, talking about November. That's what we're hoping for.
What about the mythical Home Depot product that's going to have an incorporated FP4 in it? That you talked about.
And pass.
And pass.
Yeah.
And 506 scan.
It's going through safety right now. It's going through safety, you know, the safety checks and all that stuff for the for CDRH. So that project is going to be ongoing. But there was some delays that had nothing to do with us, and so I feel bad about that there were delays. But yeah, it's in safety now.
Can you give us any more information than you have?
No.
NDAs are a bitch.
Yeah, and the what was going to be 506 scanners in there aren't going to be 506 scanners anymore because this company's going to be making them, right? So it's not like we're making scanners and selling them to them and then they put them in their project. They're going to be making the scanners, right? So we're working on a different scanner for them that's easier to build and lower cost. It was just too hard for them to, you know, we with the skill level that we've got at Pangolin, we can build compact 506s, but when we've licensed a compact 506 to 2 other companies and neither one of them could make them. So what it said was we need to come up with a simpler scanner, and so we have. It's not quite finalized yet, but we have, and so it's going to be less expensive for them. It's going to be and performance will be equal. But one neat thing about the Compact 506 is it's versatile. As you've seen with the videos I've posted, it can run mirrors that big and still have decent performance, and teeny tiny mirrors. Yeah, exactly. So I mean, mirrors even a lot bigger than this. I mean, you guys have seen me have the videos where they've got mirrors that are one big. And so, and it'll run them. But the thing is that what it means is you got to pay for that versatility. And so, if you're making a one-trick pony project, you don't need the versatility. So why pay for the versatility that you don't need? Right. So it's not going to be compact 506 scanners per se, but it's going to be something as small as the 506 and easier to make. But probably what that means is that guys who would buy the green slim projector and scavenge 24 diodes out of it, probably those same breed of guys aren't going to buy this Home Depot projector and scavenge the scanner out of it, because it works in that environment, but to try to scavenge it and transplant it into another environment, it's probably going to be require more skill level, So.
What about the 506 amps? Can we get an update on that?
Nice segue. Did he pay you to do that?
No, I'm just clueless like that.
Yeah. So we need clueless people like
Yeah, stick around after the show.
Yeah, so this is it. It's what we call the Mach Mini, after our other amps called the Mach DST. This is the size of a credit card. This is my internal development model, which is why the power components are mounted this way and not this way, because there's some components that would be actually under here that during the development process I may need to adjust the value of them. And so if I needed to dismount one of these things every time I wanted to change a resistor, because the components in here are 0402. All right, so it's probably half the size of a grain of rice.
Where's David? Here. We'll get you a 30x magnifying glass and you can start making those.
Yeah, so almost all the components on that board are 0402.
You're hand making these?
No.
I was gonna say.
No, he has little fairies that work it, right?
Well, yeah, because it's Celine, you
This
said
is done
that basically.
in our
Ryan is
Slovenia
not a
office,
fairy.
which is the
A
same
week
office
out.
that makes the FB4, the same office that makes FB3, same office that has been making our QM2000 for the last 2 or 3 years.
There's a smart example.
So are these available yet?
I can't even see.
Well, I'll tell you, we just hired a guy who's helping me to finish this project. And so that's,
No.
well, it's not available yet, but it's closer than it's ever been. Now I think that we're probably 1 month away from actually, because the only thing that needs to be finished on this is, this is a hybrid software and hardware thing, sort of like this is a hybrid software and hardware thing, right? So it's the hardware that does the analog pathway, but it's the software that figures out how to route it. It's a similar thing in this. There's no pots on this, right? But it is an analog servo. And so there's digital pots on an analog servo plus some extra twists. So we've hired a guy. He's working at Pangolin right now, and this is basically his only project. And so he's going to be working with me to finish up the firmware on this. And then the question of when can I have one is only going to come down to production, scheduling the production. In other words, we've got a pretty sophisticated automated line, pick and place and all this stuff, and ovens and everything. And that same place makes laser orbs. So every laser orb is made in terms of the components placed on it, encapsulation, potting, everything. Laser marking, it's all done in one place, right? So it's a pretty sophisticated place. And so it's going to be a question of scheduling that capacity
To drop this into the pipeline.
yeah. And I'm sure that they've already got the parts for, to make them, because these guys are kind of like Germans in their discipline and
Perfect.
organizational skills.
Cool.
So you're thinking when availability?
Well, it's a good question as far as, I think that we'll be done with the software that runs this in a month. And then it's going to come down to a question of how quickly can the factory make it.
So probably by Celine.
When is it?
August.
Always on.
Yeah, I would expect so.
Bring a bunch.
Yeah.
Target price.
Bring 2 bunches.
Target.
Yeah. What we're hoping
Did you hear
is,
that, Ryan?
I'll step up production of the scanners.
Yeah.
Your job, whether you choose to accept it or not.
right. Well,
Just to bring.
we're trying to hire more people. So if anybody here knows of somebody in the Orlando area who's good with their hands,
Small
and
fingers.
the smaller the better.
And awesome eyes.
Yeah.
And children.
Well, actually, you don't need, like, my eyes at this point, I'm really playing trombone with stuff. And so,
Walmart readers.
but you just
$10
do all
for a
this.
pack of 3.
No, actually, we've got stereo microscopes.
Yep.
So everything I do with scanners is done under a stereo microscope.
Okay.
So, you know,
Half the assembly time of one of these is done under a microscope now.
yeah.
So we have our guys that
Regardless
are
of who it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We've got guys that are best under the microscope. We have them spend their time under the microscope, and certain guys do things not under the microscope just to optimize production.
Wow.
We're making a couple hundred of those a month now.
A couple hundred 506s.
A couple hundred sets.
Wow. Wow.
So, regarding the price, what I think that we're trying to target is an entire system with the amp and scanners for $350 or $400. So something
Awesome.
Yeah.
Bring them to Celine.
That's right. Bring lots to Celine.
There's your retail box.
Bottom of the damn backpack full of scanners.
Yeah, I'm gonna say, yeah. Every Pluto is gonna get the BT40s ripped out.
No, it's a great question. It's a dual axis.
Okay.
Yeah. So in the performance of this, because of the marriage between the software that runs it and the analog, basically analog computation engine, because of that, the performance of this is going to be better than anything you guys have ever seen.
Nice.
So,
Question, is it configured by USB or like 5-volt serial, or how do you, or
What do
done
you-
at the factory and shipped perfect?
well, no, it would be done at the factory, but but how it is done is there's a serial port on here that there's these little USB to serial
Right, the 5-volt
things.
serial,
Yeah,
3.3?
it's 3.3.
Okay.
And we include that cable with the package.
Okay, and then a
Right.
utility to,
Yeah, we included what we call the Mach DSP program that runs on a PC, and it has a scope. You guys, I showed it here last
Okay.
year or something.
Yeah, you weren't here.
No.
It has,
He demoed it last year when he demoed the Saturn.
awesome.
yeah, it has a oscilloscope built into it, function generator built into it. You can adjust all the pots, and actually, it's not just you adjusting the pots once and setting them, and then it just stays that way forever. The pots are actually adjusted constantly in real time as the beam is moving.
Ah, so you can tweak it, okay.
So
Yeah.
what you're doing with the user interface on the computer is just suggesting to the board what it should do about
I got you,
in
because
this
you real
range.
time make adjustments.
And
Sorry.
depending
watching
on where the beam
feedback
is,
and
it will be changing it'll be tweaking the pots as the beam is moving to get the best performance out of it.
Are you concerned about support costs when people start screwing with software to update the hardware as opposed to pots today? I mean, most people are not going to touch a pot.
Yeah.
They don't know what they're doing. But a lot of people plug something into your computer somewhere. Are you concerned that you're giving people
Holy
a
shit.
weapon?
Aaron,
What?
are you prepared to support this thing?
No, quit touching things.
Yeah, that's gonna happen.
Yeah.
Can you reset it back?
That's going to be on the Bangor
Yeah,
website.
you just
Touching
do
Don't
dial
touch
open
it.
and, you know, it's weird.
Put it in and turn it
And
on.
like our Mach DSP, we can have 4 tunings built into this that people can bring up at any time. And you know what we haven't done on Mach DSP, but we could do is make one of them like the factory default that people can't change. So we can say, okay, if you select tuning 1, and it will just go back.
We need
to
a new
wherever.
button, like a
Yeah.
new projection zones. You screwed something up, hit new.
Yeah. No, we have the David Capullo button. Yeah. Don't tune scanners after 4 glasses or more of wine.
That's when I started getting good at it. What are you talking about?
It's just not pool, okay? There's a difference.
It still thinks it's alive. It's just.
Are you going to send it with multiple files for different speeds?
Bill, power input to the amp?
Oh, it's plus minus 15 to plus minus 30.
Okay.
Yeah. It runs down to 15.
Wow. Current, max.
Same as.
Damn, you
amp.
see that
Like
too?
it, late like the old days.
Sticker over there that you
So
just hit.
leave the power supply in
You
your
can see it
projector,
behind
just
you.
rip out the scanners and the amps, plug that in.
Yeah.
Put the 506s
Oh,
on.
yeah.
Right there in the flat in your face.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right.
Now all the power
Oh, by the way,
supplies are bigger than everything.
a long time ago I said that I had a slight wobble. I've got the 5mm mirror 506s with mixed gases thing.
Right.
Turns out it was that.
Okay.
Most of the problem was either the amps or the scanner.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you
You
letting.
tune those, and
Yeah.
I'm sure they didn't leave your hand while on that.
Yeah.
It was very small. I mean, it was
Well, I'll tell you
Wasn't
what.
white, wasn't silver, blue.
Anybody who works with me will let you know that I don't do words. If somebody says this thing is happening, I got to see it with my own eyes before I'll understand what the heck is happening. And so because a wobble
even
could
like
mean
to believe.
anything. You know, it could be a ground loop. It could be that the mirror is vibrating. It could be that the XY mount isn't tightened down. I mean, there's so many different
It
things.
could be sample jitter and a DAC that Fred wanted to smash after you proved it to him.
Anything like, I mean,
Could be an
anything
earthquake.
like that, right?
That's why he got rid of his damn Mancha and went with Pangolin. I want to take a hammer to my DAC now.
I do not intend to get people to smash their decks.
He didn't actually smash it, but he did sell it for $50. We had the very first FLEM. He had his projector up there, and he was really, and I mean, we were all proud. It was a very nice projector, but there was ever so slightly, just a little hiccup. I mean, you really, if you didn't know what you're looking for, you never would have seen it. But David had his projector, which of course was running on a QM2000, and Bill took one look at it and said it's sample jitter. Nobody knew what he was talking about, so he explained everything to it. And it's like, well, how do you know? He goes, well, here. And he pulled the ILDA cable out of David's projector and plugged it into Fred's projector, and it looks beautiful.
And then
they switched it the other way, and it's like, and then finally David got his scope out, and then Fred's just sitting there going, you know, towards the end, like, fuck, I want to take a hammer to my DAC now. A week later, he bought LD2000. He's been with it ever since. Unfortunately, he could not be here today. He couldn't get away from work. He's got a big boat he's trying to finish, so he really wanted to come.
Yeah.
He wanted to see that.
He wanted to see what? How would he have found out about?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh.
Well,
Okay.
you know he's back there.
All right. Yeah.
We talked about it. I told him.
Yeah. He's up. I'm just.
That's okay. I can take it. I've never wanted to take a hammer to my DAC.
Yeah. Well, let's keep it that way. And
Yeah, the LD doesn't do real well with hammers, does it?
Yeah.
That's not covered under warranty, is it?
I don't know, I kicked the crap out of it when we were testing it.
Yeah. I mean, because we want to stress test it, just like we want to find out when this stops working.
I grabbed the RAM, I started
So
laying the
we'll-
cord back and
we'll
forth, I
pretend
grabbed the
it's 50.
RAM and
So we
I take a
twist
wooden,
them like a helix.
brush
We
and-
hit them with a screwdriver. We if it's a rack mount like this, we bang it on there. Yeah.
One of my first days at Pangolin.
Because people do this in the field.
I came in and Aaron beating on a QM 2000 net with a screwdriver. I'm like, what are you doing? He said, testing it before I ship it to a client.
So every QM.net has a dent in it.
If it's going to fail, we want it to fail at our place.
If you can find it.
Huh?
If you can
If you can find the dent,
huh?
huh? That's the factory test dent.
That's why we stippled the paint on it.
We just thought it was there for aesthetics. Cool.
Nice.
Cool. So yeah, Ryan, your mission, whether you choose to accept it or not, is to come to Saline this year and bring truckloads of 506 scanners with amps.
He got a truck.
There you go.
There you go.
Problem solved. Okay.
You're
You're all
signed up.
witnesses.
Uh-oh.
If you don't show up, we will hunt you down.
So he admitted to having a truck.
There you go.
You know, big old Chevy.
There you
It'll probably
go.
take half the sale just to get the truck there and fuel costs.
Yeah.
Talk to me about fuel costs, okay?
Yeah,
Get a U-Haul trailer and pull it behind a 15-year-old, or pull it with a 15-year-old Jeep. All right? 11.8 miles to the gallon last year to Saline.
Well, I was gonna say, when I bought my truck, I was excited the first time I got double-digit gas mileage. I was happy. I got 10.2 on this tank. I'm doing good.
Holy shit! What the hell kind of engine do you have in this thing?
Silverado, the biggest one they put in it that year.
Oh my
I
God.
was like, I know Hayden's truck was like that.
I hate that.
Pass anything on the road but a
Crazy
gas
truck.
station.
Well, in that case, run a
He had an
minivan.
SVT though. He had a-
Yeah, I mean he was making like 500 horsepower
Screw
per
that.
wheel. So.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, he had the truck and he had the motorcycle. They were called Fast and Faster.
When I interviewed with Bill for Pangolin, I was actually going out camping afterwards. I parked my truck down the block behind another building. So I had my truck pulling my mud truck with a bunch of junk in it, camping stuff, tent stuff. Mud truck's covered in mud. I'm like, I don't know what they'll think of this. So I'll park this 2 buildings down behind, and I walked 3 buildings over to the office for my interview.
That's funny.
Bill's thinking, damn, I wish I would look 3 buildings over.
Well, no, actually, see what Ryan wouldn't have understood then, but would now, is that we would have liked to see that, because it means that the guy's got to be good with his hands, you know.
Well, he's got to have a passion.
Yeah, and it's got you gonna be fixing stuff all the time. Yeah, that's what we want working. You know?
True.
I don't want somebody working that's never had to fix anything. Yeah, so.
Yeah, because the first time Aaron trips and drops 20 QM 2000s, he's going to have a whole lot of work with it. I'm sorry, it was only 15.
They're sturdier than that, man. I can drop them all over the place.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna take this opportunity. Justin set up we've got a FLEM sale. You guys are interested?
Oh, no.
We would never assume that from Justin. Would we?
No,
of course not.
The only
He's never thinking about
That being
sales. Or,
said, the boy did me a solid. I didn't, actually, the show didn't come off, but I got approached by a show and I didn't have the equipment treat.
Oh, okay.
And I'm gonna put. I'm sorry. I'll put these over here.
An unbelievable deal on resins with Love Maxes.
Okay.
Yeah, so,
Yeah.
Unfortunately,
You guys wanna pass them
the
around?
promoter was a jerk and they showed it.
All you have to do is to sign
Justin
up.
really did me a solid.
If
Yeah,
you're
so he's
interested.
Yeah.
You sign up,
Thank
you'll have
Absolutely.
those discounts
that's
up
why
until
he's
Sign up
April
for what?
17th.
What are we signing up
Oh
for?
yeah.
Just a
Yeah.
probably the newsletter.
Damn.
Aren't we all
Yeah.
already?
The biometric is going to see it.
Yeah.
Good, congratulations to him.
Give me
Somebody who does not like marketing, it's they'll have.
So he doesn't always think of ourselves.
Yeah, just pass them on down.
Wow.
Yes, yes, he is. And there are some.
I have not looked at this.
That's
By the way.
cheaper than I can buy it as an X-Laser.
I have not looked at this. By the way.
That quick show price is cheaper than an X-Laser dealer can buy it. Just saying.
And then
That's a
just so
really
you guys know,
fucking good price
there's
to do
never
yourself.